Commander Olivia Wright stood at the large window on Outpost Helios and looked out at the stars. Her hands were tight fists at her sides. The stars used to make her feel hope. Now they only brought fear. Somewhere out there, the Nick ships were coming closer. Every hour brought the aliens nearer to her home and the people she had sworn to protect. "Commander, the long-range scanners show more ships joining the Nick's fleet," said Lieutenant Daniel Carter. His young face looked older now, with dark circles under his eyes from too many sleepless nights. "They will reach our system in 36 hours. Olivia nodded. She had expected this news, but it still felt like a punch to her stomach. "Send the distress call again, Lieutenant. Keep sending it until they get here." "Yes, Commander." Daniel hesitated. "Do you think anyone will hear it this time?" The question hung in the air between them. They both knew the answer. Earth and the other human colonies were too far away. The message would take years to reach them. By then, everyone on Helios would be dead. "Just send it," she said. Daniel walked away to follow her order. Olivia stayed by the window a moment longer. Outpost Helios had been her home for 5 years. The colony had grown from a small research station to a thriving community of 15,000 people. Farmers, teachers, engineers, doctors, children, all of them now looking to her for salvation she could not give. The door opened behind her. Dr. Eleanor Ford walked in, holding a tablet. Eleanor was the colony's head scientist, a brilliant woman who had come to Helios to study the unique plant life on the planet. Now she spent her days figuring out how to kill aliens. "I have the latest defense plans," Eleanor said. "We've moved most people to the underground shelters. Our orbital cannons might hold off their smaller ships for a few hours, but once their main fleet arrives..." She did not finish the sentence. "Show me," Olivia said. They walked to the command center together. The large room was filled with people working at screens, their faces grim and focused. A big display on the wall showed the Nyx fleet's approach. The alien ships looked like giant metal insects, with long, sharp legs folded against their bodies. The largest one was almost the size of a small moon. "We've placed our best gunners on the orbital platforms," Eleanor explained, pointing to small blue dots around the planet. "The ground defenses are ready too. But honestly, Olivia," her voice dropped to a whisper, "we all know how this ends." Olivia looked at her friend. "We keep fighting until we can't. That's how it ends." Night fell across the colony. In the underground shelters, families huddled together on cots and makeshift beds. The shelters had been built when the colony first started, meant to protect people from the planet's occasional storms. No one had imagined they would become humanity's last stand against an alien invasion. Ryan Powell sat on a thin mattress, his 10-year-old daughter Lily sleeping with her head on his lap. Around them, other families tried to rest. Some children cried. Adults spoke in hushed voices, sharing rumors and fears. "Dad?" Lily's eyes opened. "Are the space monsters coming?" Ryan stroked her hair. "Try to sleep, sweetheart." You didn't answer. Lily was too smart for easy comfort. "Yes, they're coming. But our soldiers will protect us." The lie tasted bitter in his mouth. "What about the big ships from Earth? The ones in your stories?" Lily asked. Her eyes were wide and trusting. Ryan used to tell her bedtime stories about Earth's mighty fleet, huge warships that could destroy entire asteroids, stories to make a little girl feel safe on a distant colony, stories he no longer believed himself. "Maybe they'll come," he said softly. "Now sleep." When Lily's breathing grew steady again, Ryan looked up at the shelter ceiling. Somewhere above them was the night sky, and beyond that, empty space. No help was coming. They were alone. In the colony's communications center, the message continued to broadcast. "This is Outpost Helios. We are under imminent threat of extinction by Nyx forces. Our population of 15,000 civilians will be defenseless within 48 hours. Any allied ships, please respond. This is Outpost Helios." The message repeated, sent by powerful transmitters that pushed it at light speed into the darkness. No one expected an answer. By morning, the mood in the command center had grown darker. New scans showed the Nyx fleet had split into 2 groups. The first would arrive even sooner than expected. "They're sending an advance force," Daniel explained, pointing to the screen. "Probably to take out our orbital defenses before the main fleet arrives." Olivia studied the tactical display. "How many ships in the advance group?" 5, smaller vessels, but still bigger than anything we have." "How long?" 12 hours, maybe less." Olivia turned to address the room. "I want all non-essential personnel evacuated to the shelters. Military and emergency services only from now on. Make sure all orbital platforms are fully crewed and ready. As people hurried to follow her orders, Daniel stayed by her side. "What about you, Commander?" he asked. "My place is here," she said simply. While the colony prepared for battle, Dr. Eleanor Ford worked frantically in her lab. Her team had been studying Nyx technology salvaged from previous encounters. The aliens had attacked 3 other human colonies before turning their attention to Helios. Each time the pattern was the same: total destruction, no survivors. The communication fragments we decoded suggest they see us as resources, not enemies, Eleanor explained to Olivia when she visited the lab. They harvest planets, strip them of minerals, absorb all organic matter into their collective. "So we're not even worth talking to?" Olivia asked. "To them, we're just another form of fuel." Eleanor looked tired but determined. "We've developed a virus that might disrupt their neural network, but we'd need to deliver it directly to their command ship. With our current delivery systems, it's impossible." In the shelter, Ryan tried to keep Lily distracted with games and stories. Other parents were doing the same for their children. No one wanted to admit they were just waiting to die. An older man named Frank Miller sat down beside them. He had been a farmer since the colony began. "The hydroponic systems in the deep shelters are working well," Frank said quietly. "If we can hold out, we might have food for a few months." "If," Ryan repeated. The word hung in the air. In orbit around Helios, the automated defense satellites detected the first Nyx ships entering the system. Silent alarms triggered in the command center. "They're here," Daniel announced. His voice was steady, but his hands trembled slightly. Olivia took a deep breath. "Alert the gunners. All defense platforms prepare to fire on my mark." The Nyx advance ships moved with strange grace for such large vessels. They spread out in a formation that would let them attack the colony from multiple angles. Their hulls gleamed darkly in the light of Helios's sun. "They're scanning us," said a technician. "Our defenses, population centers, everything." "Let them look," Olivia said. "Defense platforms. Target the lead vessel." The orbital cannons powered up, drawing energy from the colony's reserves. They were good weapons, designed to protect against pirates or small hostile forces. "Not an alien armada." "All platforms report ready, Commander," Daniel said. Olivia looked at the screen one last time. The alien ships were almost in range. Soon the battle for Helios would begin, a battle they could not win. "This is it," she said softly. Then louder. "Fire." Bright beams of energy shot from the defense platforms, streaking across space toward the Nyx ships. The first shots hit the lead vessel, causing its shields to flare bright blue. The ship shuddered but kept coming. The Nyx returned fire immediately. 2 defense platforms exploded in silent bursts of light and debris. "Platforms 3 and 7 are gone," Daniel reported. "The others are still firing. On the planet below, people in the shelters felt the ground shake as the colony's ground-based cannons joined the fight, sending massive energy bolts into the sky. The battle for Helios had begun, and somewhere in the darkness of space a distress call continued its lonely journey, unheard and unanswered. Admiral Nathaniel Grant stood on the bridge of the UES Leviathan, with his hands clasped behind his back. The massive view screen showed nothing but the darkness of space and distant stars. At 62 years old, Grant had spent most of his life serving in Earth's space fleet. He had seen many ships, but none like the Leviathan. The ship was 18 kilometers long, a true giant among the stars. Some called it a Juggernaut, a force that nothing could stop. Grant hoped they were right. "Status report," he said. Officer Kyle Martinez looked up from the navigation console. "All systems normal, Admiral. We are currently at the edge of the Centauri sector, testing the new drive as planned." The Leviathan was on its first real mission, testing its revolutionary Alcubierre drive. The new technology allowed the ship to travel faster than any human vessel before. It was still experimental, but so far everything worked perfectly. "Sir, I'm receiving something," said Communications Officer Samantha Wells suddenly. Her fingers moved quickly over her console. "It's a distress signal." Grant turned to face her. "Source. It's coming from Outpost Helios. The signal is weak and degraded by distance." Samantha frowned as she worked to clean up the message. "But it appears authentic. They're reporting an attack by Nyx forces." The bridge grew quiet. Everyone knew about the Nyx. The alien fleet had destroyed 3 human colonies in the past year. Each time there were no survivors. Play the message, Grant ordered. A broken voice filled the bridge. This is Outpost Helios. We are under imminent threat of extinction by Nix forces. Our population of 15,000 civilians will be defenseless within 48 hours. Any Allied ships, please respond. Grant's face hardened. How far is Helios from our position? Kyle checked his instruments. It's in the Orion arm, sir. At our normal speed, it would take weeks to reach them. And with the Alcubierre drive at maximum? Kyle ran the calculations. His eyes widened. 34 hours, sir. But that would mean pushing the drive beyond safety parameters. It hasn't been fully tested at that level. Grant nodded slowly. Plot the course. Prepare the ship for extended FTL travel. Sir? Kyle looked concerned. The engineers recommended we not exceed 80% capacity on this first mission. I understand the recommendation. Grant's voice was firm. But there are 15,000 people about to die if we don't reach them in time. Plot the course. Yes, sir. Kyle turned back to his console. Grant pressed a button on his chair. Bridge to engineering. Engineering here, answered a woman's voice. Chief Engineer Patricia Alvarez speaking. Patricia, we're changing our mission. We need to reach Outpost Helios as quickly as possible. How fast can you get the Alcubierre drive to full power? There was a pause. The drive hasn't been tested beyond 80% capacity, Admiral. Going to 100% would be risky. I'm aware of the risks. Those people need us, another pause. Give me 2 hours to make some adjustments. Then we can push it to full power. You have 1 hour, Grant said. The people of Helios don't have much time. Understood, sir. We'll be ready, Grant addressed the entire bridge crew. Send a message to Earth Command informing them of our change in course. Tell them we're responding to the Helios distress call. Samantha looked up. Sir, by the time Earth Command receives our message and responds, we'll already be at Helios. I know. This is just to inform them, not to ask permission. Grant stood straighter. The Leviathan was built for this exact purpose, to protect human colonies no matter how far away they are. The next hour passed quickly as the crew prepared for the longest and fastest FTL jump ever attempted by a human ship. In engineering, Patricia Alvarez and her team worked frantically to prepare the massive quantum reactors. The Leviathan's engine room was the size of a small city. 3 enormous quantum reactors hummed with energy. They powered everything on the ship, from life support to the deadly weapons. But most importantly, they powered the Alcubierre drive, the technology that would bend space itself around the ship. Coolant pressure in Reactor 2 is higher than I'd like, Patricia told her assistant, Joe Garcia. Let's bring it down 5%. Yes, Chief. Joe adjusted the controls. Are we really going to push the drive to 100%? Patricia nodded. Admiral's orders. And he's right. If we don't, everyone on Helios dies. On the bridge, Grant received regular updates from all departments. The weapons teams were preparing the ship's massive arsenal. The medical bay was setting up for possible casualties. The shield generators were being tested at full capacity. Engineering reports ready, sir, Samantha announced finally. Grant nodded. All hands prepare for FTL travel. This will be a longer jump than any of us have experienced before. He sat in the command chair and pressed a button. His voice went out to all 18,000 crew members on the massive ship. This is Admiral Grant speaking. By now, you've all heard that we've changed our mission. Outpost Helios is under attack by the Nix, the same enemy that destroyed Outpost Darwin, the same enemy that left no survivors at New Sydney, the same enemy that turned Outpost Jefferson into ash. He paused, letting his words sink in. The people of Helios have sent out a call for help. They think no one is coming. They believe they're alone. They're not. We are the United Earthship Leviathan, the most powerful warship ever built by human hands, and we're going to show the Nix exactly what happens when they attack our people. Throughout the ship, crew members listened. Some were afraid. Some were excited. All were ready. We will be pushing our ship beyond its tested limits. There are risks. But the 15,000 men, women, and children on Helios are facing certain death. I believe the Leviathan was built for this moment. To reach those who need us, no matter the distance. To be the shield that protects humanity, wherever we have made our homes among the stars. On the engineering deck, Patricia Alvarez watched the reactor readings carefully. They were stable, but they would be under enormous strain during the jump. Our course is set, Grant continued. In 5 minutes, we will engage the Alcubierre drive at 100% capacity. We will arrive at Helios in approximately 34 hours. And when we get there, we will show the Nix what happens when they threaten our kind. He ended the transmission and turned to Kyle. Status of the drive? Engineering reports all systems go, sir. The drive is ready. Grant looked at the view screen, at the stars that would soon become streaks of light as the ship moved faster than any human vessel in history. Engage the drive. Mr. Martinez, take us to Helios. Kyle pressed the controls. The ship hummed as the quantum reactors channeled enormous energy into the Alcubierre drive. Space itself began to bend around the massive vessel. Drive engaged, sir. We are now at 85% capacity and climbing. The stars on the view screen began to stretch into lines. The ship vibrated slightly. 90% capacity. Patricia's voice came over the comm. Reactors are holding steady, Admiral. We're good so far. 95% capacity. The vibration increased. Warning lights flashed on several consoles, but no alarm sounded. 100% capacity, sir. We've reached maximum speed. The Leviathan shot forward, wrapped in a bubble of distorted space-time. The massive ship was now traveling faster than any human had ever gone before. Behind it, the fabric of space rippled and churned, creating a wake that astronomers across 3 systems would later record as a strange anomaly. Grant looked at the mission clock on his console. 34 hours to Helios. Let's hope we're not too late. As the Leviathan raced through the void, its crew prepared for battle. Weapons were checked and double-checked. Battle plans were made. And in his private quarters, Admiral Grant studied everything known about the Nix. The people of Helios had sent out a desperate call into the darkness. They thought no one would come. They were wrong. The orbital defenses of Helios were failing fast. Commander Olivia Wright watched from the command bunker as another defense platform exploded in silence. The Nix ships moved through the debris like sharks through bloody water. They were hunting, and Helios was their prey. We've lost Platform 6, Lieutenant Daniel Carter reported. His voice was flat from exhaustion. They had been fighting for 18 hours straight. Platform 3 is still operational, but heavily damaged. Olivia nodded. She had expected this. The Nix were too powerful, their ships too advanced. But every minute they held them off was another minute for the civilians in the underground shelters. What about the Dauntless? She asked. Daniel shook his head. No contact for the past hour. We must assume it's been destroyed. The Dauntless was the last of their small fleet, an outdated corvette that had been making suicide runs against the Nix ships. Its captain, Linda Hayes, was an old friend of Olivia's. Now she was gone, along with her entire crew. That's the last of our orbital defense fleet, Daniel said quietly. The command bunker fell silent. Everyone knew what this meant. The colony's last line of defense was gone. Now there was nothing between the Nix and the planet's surface. Dr. Eleanor Ford looked up from her station. The shelters are all sealed. We've got 15,023 people underground according to the latest count. If the Nix follow their usual pattern, they'll glass the surface but may not detect the deeper bunkers. How long can we survive down there? Olivia asked. Eleanor hesitated. With current supplies? Maybe 6 months. But without surface access for water and food production, she didn't need to finish. They all knew what that meant. A slow death instead of a quick one. The tactical display showed the massive Nix mothership moving into low orbit. It was shaped like a giant spider, with long metal legs folded against its body. Smaller ships moved around it like worker bees around a hive. They're sending landing craft, Daniel reported. At least 50 of them. On the surface, automated defense turrets fired their last shots at the Nix landing craft. The alien ships were hit, but most kept coming. They landed in the empty streets of the colony, their doors opening to release the Nix soldiers. The aliens stood 9 feet tall, with too many limbs and bodies covered in dark armor. They moved with strange grace as they secured the landing area. Their helmets had no visible eyes, just smooth black surfaces that reflected the fires burning around them. Deep underground, Ryan Powell sat with his daughter Lily in the largest shelter. Around them, thousands of colonists huddled together. Some prayed. Some cried. Most just sat in silence waiting. "Dad, what's that noise?" Lily asked. Ryan listened. There was a distant rumble coming through the thick walls of the shelter. "It's just the wind," he lied. "It wasn't the wind." It was the sound of Nix ships firing on the colony's buildings. They were methodically destroying everything on the surface. An older woman sat down next to them. She introduced herself as Nancy White, a teacher at the colony school. "I had most of these children in my class," she said. looking around at the frightened faces. They should be learning about stars and planets, not hiding from aliens who want to kill them. Ryan nodded. Did anyone actually think help would come? Nancy shook her head. Earth is too far away. Even if they got our message, it would take years for a rescue ship to reach us. In the command bunker, Olivia and her team watched helplessly as the Nix took control of the surface. The aliens moved through the abandoned buildings, scanning for technology and resources. What are they looking for? Daniel asked. According to our intelligence, they harvest everything, Eleanor explained. Metals, water, organic material. They take it all back to their ships and use it to build more ships, more soldiers. And the people? Olivia asked, though she already knew the answer. Eleanor's face was grim. Also harvested. Their bodies broken down into basic components. The thought made Olivia sick. She had failed these people. Failed to protect them. Failed to save them. Commander, they're approaching the main power plant, a technician reported. Initiate self-destruct sequence, Olivia ordered. Authorization right Alpha 79. Daniel looked at her. Are you sure? If they get access to our power core, they might detect the radiation signature from the shelters, she explained. This way, the explosion might mask the shelter's energy signatures. Daniel nodded and entered the code. On their screens, they watched as the colony's main power plant exploded in a massive fireball. Several Nix soldiers were caught in the blast, their bodies thrown like rag dolls. That should buy us some time, Olivia said, but the Nix responded quickly. Their mothership fired a beam of energy at the explosion site, somehow containing the blast. Then more soldiers landed, these ones carrying heavy equipment. They're setting up some kind of scanner, Eleanor observed. I think they're looking for the shelters. Olivia made a decision. We need to move to the deep bunker with the others. There's nothing more we can do from here, no one argued. They gathered what equipment they could carry and prepared to leave the command bunker. Their last act was to set explosive charges that would destroy all their data and technology when the Nix eventually found this place. In orbit, the Nix Supreme Commander, a being known only as the Harbinger, watched with satisfaction as its forces secured another human world. The Harbinger was larger than other Nix, with armor that gleamed like oil on water. Its helmet had a single red line where eyes would be on a human. The Harbinger communicated with its officers through a neural network that connected all Nix. There was no need for spoken words. Thoughts and commands flowed like electricity through circuits. An officer approached with news of unusual readings at the system's edge. The Harbinger dismissed the concern. Human reinforcements were impossible. Their fastest ships would take years to arrive from the nearest major colony. The Harbinger returned its attention to the harvest. This colony was small but resource-rich. The organic material alone would allow them to create hundreds of new soldiers. The metals would be used to repair damage to the fleet. Nothing would be wasted. Deep in the shelters, the colonists tried to keep calm as the ground above them shook from explosions. Parents told stories to their children. Friends held hands. Strangers offered comfort to one another. Ryan Powell listened to the distant rumble of bombardment. Lily had finally fallen asleep, clutching her stuffed animal. He wondered if anyone had even heard their call. If Earth even knew they were dying out here on the edge of human space. Olivia and her team arrived at the deep shelter after navigating the emergency tunnels. They were welcomed with desperate hope by the civilians. Is help coming? Someone asked immediately. Olivia couldn't lie to them. No, we're on our own. The hope in their eyes died. But they didn't panic. These were frontier people used to hardship and struggle. They would face death with the same courage they had faced life on this distant world. Eleanor set up her equipment in a corner of the shelter. I'm still working on that virus that might disrupt their neural network, she told Olivia. It's a long shot, but it's all we have left. Olivia nodded. Keep working. We'll find a way to deliver it if you succeed. They both knew it was almost certainly hopeless, but giving up wasn't in their nature. As long as they were alive, they would keep fighting. On the surface, the Nix continued their systematic destruction of the colony. Building by building, street by street, they tore apart everything humans had built on this world. Their machines harvested materials. Their soldiers searched for any signs of life. The Harbinger received a report of energy readings coming from deep underground. The humans were hiding just as they had on other worlds. It made no difference. The Nix would find them. The harvest would continue. The alien commander ordered more scanners to be deployed. The humans could hide, but they could not escape. No one was coming to save them. No one even knew they were here. The Harbinger was wrong. The Harbinger stood on the command deck of the Nyx mothership and watched as its forces secured another human world. The view screen showed the colony burning below. Soon this planet would be converted like all the others before it. The resources would be stripped, the metals harvested, and the human biomass collected for the collective. Nothing would be wasted. Nothing would be spared. A Nyx officer approached with a report. Their scanners had detected unusual energy readings at the edge of the system. The Harbinger considered this information briefly. Human reinforcements were impossible. Their fastest ships would take years to arrive from the nearest major colony. Perhaps it was just a solar flare or a passing comet. Nothing to worry about. The Harbinger dismissed the concern and returned to monitoring the harvest. The officer retreated but continued to watch the strange readings on its own screen. Something was not right. The energy signature was growing stronger. Suddenly, alarms blared across the command deck. The Nyx soldiers moved with new urgency as warning lights flashed on their control panels. Space itself seemed to be tearing open at the edge of the system. Reality was buckling as something massive forced its way through. The Harbinger turned its attention to the main view screen. What it saw made no sense. A hole was opening in the fabric of space, a swirling vortex of energy that pulsed with blinding light. And then, emerging from this impossible doorway came a ship, but not just any ship. This vessel was enormous, dwarfing even the Nyx mothership. 18 kilometers of gleaming metal and glowing energy ports. Its hull was marked with the symbols of Earth. Weapons ports covered its surface like angry eyes, all of them now opening. The ship's engines glowed with blue fire as it slowed from its faster-than-light journey. The UES Leviathan had arrived. On the bridge of the human Juggernaut, Admiral Grant stood calmly as the ship emerged from its FTL corridor. The surrounding space still rippled from the stress of its passage. Warning lights flashed on several consoles, but the ship had survived its record-breaking journey. FTL exit complete, Kyle Martinez reported from the navigation station. We've arrived at the Helios system, Admiral. Damage report, Grant ordered. Drive cooling systems at critical levels, Patricia Alvarez replied from engineering. But holding. We made it, sir. Grant nodded. Scan the system. Find me the Nyx fleet. Officer Samantha Wells worked her console quickly. Multiple contacts detected in orbit around Helios. One large vessel, approximately 2 kilometers in length. Appears to be their mothership. Smaller craft in formation around it. They're directly above the main colony. Life signs on the planet? Grant asked. Difficult to get clear readings, Samantha replied. The Nyx are jamming most frequencies. But I'm detecting energy signatures deep underground. Could be the shelters. So they're still alive, Grant said softly. Then louder. Weapon status? All weapon systems online and ready, reported Weapons Officer Gregory Simmons. Main cannon charged to full capacity. Target acquisition complete. Grant stood straighter. Open a channel to all frequencies. Let's make sure everyone hears us. Across Helios, in bunkers and in Nyx ships alike, the same message suddenly played. This is Admiral Nathaniel Grant of the United Earth ship Leviathan. To the people of Helios, we heard your call. To the Nyx forces, you have 60 seconds to surrender or be destroyed. In the underground shelter, the command staff of Helios stared in disbelief at their emergency receivers. The message had come through clearly despite the Nyx jamming. Is that one of ours? Daniel asked. Olivia looked at the grainy satellite image on their backup systems. The shape of an enormous ship was just visible, far larger than anything she had ever seen. I've never seen a ship that big, she said. Nothing like that exists in our fleet. Leviathan, Eleanor repeated the name. I heard rumors about a new class of warship being built in the Earth shipyards. But I thought it was just stories. On the Nyx mothership, the Harbinger was experiencing something it had never felt before. Confusion. The human ship was impossible. No human vessel could have reached Helios so quickly, and its size was beyond anything the Nyx had encountered in their campaigns against the Earth colonies. The Harbinger ordered immediate evasive action, but the mothership was too slow to maneuver quickly. It was designed for planetary harvesting, not for combat against a warship of this magnitude. On the Leviathan, Grant waited exactly 60 seconds. The Nyx made no response to his message. He had expected none. They've had their chance, he said. Target their mothership. Fire the main cannon. Gregory Simmons pressed a sequence of controls. Main cannon firing, sir. The front of the Leviathan opened like a blooming flower, revealing the massive energy weapon at its core. The weapon that concentrated the power output of 3 quantum reactors into a single beam. For a moment, the space around the ship seemed to darken, as if light itself was being drawn into the cannon. Then the beam fired. A blinding stream of energy cut across space, covering the distance between the ships in less than a second. It struck the Nyx mothership dead center. The beam cut through the alien vessel like a hot knife through butter, splitting it cleanly in 2. Secondary explosions rippled across both halves as atmosphere vented into space, and reactor cores went critical. In the underground shelter, Ryan Powell felt the ground shake. But this vibration was different from the bombardment. It was rhythmic, almost like celebration. He could hear people shouting in the corridors outside. "What's happening?" he asked a man who ran past. "A ship," the man shouted back. "A human ship bigger than anything ever built. It just destroyed the Nyx mothership." Ryan stared in disbelief. Then he looked down at Lily, still sleeping despite the noise. "Wake up, sweetheart," he said gently. "I think the cavalry has arrived." On the Leviathan, Grant watched as the Nyx mothership broke apart. But he knew the battle was far from over. The smaller Nyx ships were rallying, moving to attack positions. "Target the remaining vessels," he ordered. "Fire at will." The Leviathan's secondary weapons opened up, sending hundreds of energy torpedoes toward the Nyx ships. Each torpedo tracked its target with deadly precision. The Nyx tried to evade, but they were caught by surprise. Ship after ship exploded into debris. "Sir, we're detecting Nyx ground forces on the planet," Samantha reported. "They're converging on what appears to be the main shelter entrance." Grant turned to his second-in-command, Captain Alan West. "Prepare the dropships. I want Marines on the ground now. Priority is protecting the civilians." "Yes, sir," Captain West replied. He began issuing orders to the Marine units. In the colony, the Nyx soldiers felt the shockwave as their mothership died. Their neural network flickered with confusion and loss. The Harbinger, their commander, was gone, but their programming remained. Complete the harvest. Collect the humans. They moved toward the detected energy signatures underground, bringing heavy drilling equipment. They would dig out the humans like insects from a hive, but before they could begin, the sky lit up with new fire. Drop ships from the Leviathan burned through the atmosphere, landing in the ruins of the colony. The doors opened and human Marines in heavy combat armor charged out, weapons blazing. The Nyx soldiers turned to face this new threat. They were still dangerous, but without the Harbinger to coordinate them, their movements were less precise, their tactics less effective. In the shelter, Olivia made a decision. "We need to help them," she said. "Daniel, get our security teams armed." "Eleanor, bring your virus. This might be our chance to deliver it." They quickly organized a force from the colony's security personnel. Using emergency exits, they emerged onto the surface for the first time in days. The colony was in ruins, buildings burning, streets filled with debris. But now there was hope. Human dropships filled the sky, and Marines fought the Nyx in the streets. "Look at the size of that thing," Daniel said, pointing up. Olivia followed his gaze. The Leviathan was visible even in daylight, a massive shadow against the blue sky. Its weapons continued to fire at the remaining Nyx ships in orbit. "I never thought I'd see anything like that," she said. Then she turned to her team. "Let's go. Those Marines need our help." As they moved through the ruins toward the sound of battle, Olivia allowed herself to feel something she had thought was gone forever. Hope. Help had come after all. Against all odds, Earth had heard their call, and they had sent a Juggernaut. 3 days after the Leviathan's arrival, the survivors of Helios emerged into the sunlight. The colony looked different now. Many buildings were gone, destroyed by the Nyx attack, but there was new activity everywhere. Repair drones from the Juggernaut hovered above damaged structures, their laser tools cutting and welding. Marines in combat armor patrolled the streets, keeping watch for any remaining Nyx soldiers. Supply shuttles moved between the massive ship in orbit and the colony, bringing food, medicine, and equipment. Commander Olivia Wright stood beside Admiral Grant as they watched another shuttle land in what used to be the colony's central plaza. The shuttle's doors opened and medical teams hurried out with supplies. "We thought no one would come," Olivia said quietly. "How did you get here so quickly?" Grant looked up at the Leviathan, visible even in daylight as a dark shape against the blue sky. "The Leviathan is the first of her kind. A prototype with capabilities we're still discovering ourselves. You pushed your engines beyond safety limits, Olivia said. It wasn't a question, Grant nodded. We received your distress call while testing the new Alcubierre drive. We were the only vessel that could possibly reach you in time. You risked your ship and crew for us, Olivia said. 15,000 people you've never met. That's what the Leviathan was built for, Grant replied. To protect humanity, wherever we've made our homes among the stars. In another part of the colony, Ryan Powell walked with his daughter Lily through streets being cleared of debris. Lily stared up in awe at the massive ship visible in the daytime sky. Is that from Earth? She asked her father. Ryan nodded, his earlier cynicism replaced by something he hadn't felt in years. Hope. Yes, that's humanity's answer to the Nix. It's so big, Lily said. Bigger than anything. It's called a Juggernaut, Ryan told her. It means something so powerful that nothing can stop it. A Marine walked past them, nodding politely. Her armor was scratched and scorched from battle, but she moved with confidence. Ryan realized he had stopped being afraid. For the first time since the Nix arrived, he wasn't waiting to die. In what remained of the colony's science building, Dr. Eleanor Ford worked alongside the Leviathan science team. They had set up new equipment where her old lab had been destroyed. Screens displayed Nix biology and technology salvaged from the battlefield. Their hive mind structure makes them formidable, Eleanor explained to Patricia Alvarez, the Juggernaut's chief engineer. Each soldier is connected to the others through a neural network. That's why they acted so confused after you destroyed their mothership. They lost their central command node. It's also a weakness, Patricia replied, examining the data. If we can disrupt their primary communication nodes, we can isolate their forces, Eleanor completed the thought. The virus I was developing might work with some modifications. The Leviathan's quantum jammers might be adapted for that purpose, Patricia suggested. We could create a field that blocks their neural signals. Eleanor nodded excitedly. Yes, that could work. If we combine our approaches. The two women continued working, sharing ideas and building on each other's knowledge. Around them, other scientists and engineers did the same, human ingenuity combining with the advanced technology from the Leviathan. By evening, most of the colonists had emerged from the shelters. Emergency housing units had been set up in open areas. Food was being distributed from the Leviathan's supplies. Medical teams treated the injured. Children played in makeshift playgrounds, their laughter a sound that had been missing during the dark days of the attack. Admiral Grant addressed the assembled colonists from a platform in the colony's central area. The people of Helios gathered to hear him speak, their faces turned up toward the man who had brought salvation from the stars. People of Helios, Grant began. 3 days ago, we received your distress call. Today, I can tell you that the Nix threat has been eliminated from this system. Their mothership is destroyed. Their ground forces have been defeated. You are safe, a cheer went up from the crowd. People hugged each other, some crying with relief. The Leviathan will remain here until basic services are restored, Grant continued when the noise died down. We've already begun repairing your power grid and communication systems. Supply ships from Earth will arrive within the month. Helios will rebuild. He paused, looking out at the faces of those who had endured months of terror and isolation. But I want you to know something else. Helios will not fall. Not today, not ever. The Leviathan is just the first of many. Even now, 6 more juggernauts are under construction in Earth shipyards. The crowd murmured in surprise. The Leviathan was already beyond anything they had imagined. The thought of 6 more such ships was almost overwhelming. You called out into the darkness, believing no one would answer, Grant said. But humanity heard you, and we will always come for our own. As night fell on Helios, its people no longer feared the darkness. Children slept peacefully for the first time in months. Adults spoke of rebuilding, of the future, rather than of survival and death. Olivia stood on a hill overlooking the colony. Lights had been restored to some areas, pushing back the night. Daniel Carter joined her, offering a cup of hot coffee. I still can't believe they came, he said. I know, Olivia replied. I had given up hope. What happens now? Daniel asked. We rebuild, Olivia said simply. We make Helios stronger than before. And next time we won't be alone. In orbit above them floated the most powerful warship ever built by human hands. Its weapons were silent now, its power directed toward healing rather than destruction. but it remained a promise that no matter how far humanity spread across the galaxy, they would never truly be alone. On the Leviathan's observation deck, Admiral Grant looked down at the recovering colony and out to the stars beyond. The ship had performed beyond expectations. Its journey to Helios had proven what the designers had only theorized, that humanity could reach any of its colonies within days rather than years. The Nix had believed they were hunting isolated, vulnerable prey. Instead, they had awakened a sleeping giant. With the Leviathan and its sister ships, humanity would no longer be easy targets scattered across the stars. They would be a united force able to defend any world that called for help. Captain Alan West joined him at the window. "Engineering reports the drive is fully repaired, sir. We can depart whenever you give the order," Grant nodded. "We'll stay until the colony is secure. Then we have other work to do." "Sir? The Nix have attacked 4 of our colonies that we know of," Grant explained. "They must have a home base, staging areas, other fleets. Now it's our turn to hunt them." The Leviathan's engines hummed with latent power, ready to carry humanity's response to the very heart of Nix territory. The message would be clear: attack one human world, and the full might of Earth would answer. Down in the colony, Ryan tucked Lily into bed in their temporary housing unit. She was tired but happy, excited about helping plant a new garden tomorrow. "Dad," she said sleepily, "will the big ship stay forever?" "No, sweetheart," Ryan answered. "It will go to help other people who need it. But it will come back if we ever need it again. Promise." Ryan looked out the window at the stars. One of them seemed to move, a light brighter than the others. "The Leviathan keeping watch, I promise," he said. And for the first time in a long time he believed it. The Juggernaut had arrived, and the galaxy would never be the same.